everyone, how are you? My name is Cherie Beck, for those of you who don't know me. For those of you that know me, hello. This might be a little bit of a different video than you guys are usually seeing from me. This is my testimony in regards to how I've become to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. So basically, I'm not a fan of religion either. Just want to throw that out there. Literally, it is about having a relationship with Jesus Christ, and that's all he has ever wanted, is just to have a relationship with you personally. And this is a little bit about my testimony and how I've come to know that the whole time that I thought he wasn't there, that there was no God, that he was actually there, just waiting for me to kind of reach out to him, and then he's kind of pulled me back in slowly. And yeah, it'll all be revealed. So hopefully this makes sense. I haven't done a video like this before. I'm actually very nervous. So stick with me, but I prayed and I've given it to God, and he's giving me the strength to say this, because I do feel like somebody needs to hear this. Somebody needs to know that you are not lost, so lost in your sins or lost in this world, that you cannot get out of it, and also that you are an absolutely amazing person. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. We are here for a reason on this earth, okay? And it isn't, we weren't just blowing up in a big bang, and here we are with plants, trees, birds, and all of a sudden we, like, think about what's inside of our bodies and everything. We did not just come from nowhere. So anyway, okay, so a little bit of a backstory about me. So I am Cherie Beck, come from a small little town in New Zealand, Timaru. I was brought up in a non-Christian family. So my parents didn't go to church. We never prayed or anything like that. Basically knew very little about God. I do remember my mum getting us into some kind of youth, like Bible in schools, or like a youth club or something like that after school every now and then. I'm not sure if it was because she had to work or why we went, but it was really cool. I do remember one time actually going to this thing. I was very young. I wouldn't remember how old I was, and they were telling a story about how basically God sees us as his sheep, and the sheep kind of hear his voice and things like that. It sounds really silly, but anyway, they got everybody to draw a picture of what they thought how God seen them and things like that, and everybody drew themselves and their hair and, you know, their eyes and smiley face and stuff like that. And then they come to me, and I had drawn a sheep. And they were like, why have you drawn a sheep? And I was like, because it's like the story, like, you know, Jesus is the shepherd, and they don't leave, you know, any sheep behind, and he's calling the sheep and rah-de-rah. So I remember clearly as a little kid drawing a sheep. And yeah, and I feel like, I don't know why I remember that, but I do. So basically I also remember like Bible in schools and stuff, and kind of the lady kind of talking to us about Bible in schools and about God and stuff like that. But other than that, I didn't grow up in a Christian family. We had a pretty normal family life, I would guess. I mean, like, normal to the extent that no family is normal. There wasn't anything like crazy going on. Their mum and dad drunk at the pub and would have parties at home and stuff like that, but nothing like, yeah, crazy. So basically how, this is a bit of a journey, I guess, through my whole life till now that I'm 30. I literally was only baptized in water nearly probably 3 weeks ago now. And basically how I came to know Jesus, I guess. So I remember one day there was a knock at the door, and there was these two kids there, and they'd lost their dog, and it was a friend actually. She was a friend. She wasn't a friend at the time. A girl I went to school with, they had lost their dog, and she knew that like some girl lived at that house that went to her school that was in her year, so she didn't want to come and knock on the door, so she sent over her brother and sister to knock on the door to find the dog. I was like, sorry, haven't found our dog. Next day at school, I kind of was like, did you find your dog? And we kind of hit it off, had the same sense of humor and things like that, and ended up becoming really good friends. Well, her family actually used to go to church, so I tagged along one day, and I got invited to go along with them to like youth group on a Friday. I think it was like a Friday night. So I started going to that. It was really fun. And then I started tagging along with them to church and going to church services and things like this. So my parents thought it was a bit weird because they never went to church, but I seemed to enjoy it and they weren't going to stop that. So that was really cool. I then decided that I wanted to study and become a youth pastor, so I studied Christian ministries. I got myself a Christian boyfriend, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it was all going well, and then I think I just burnt myself out, and I think the whole religion aspect came into it. So I ended up kind of leaving that kind of side of things. I mean, I was having premarital sex, all that kind of stuff was happening in the church and things like that, and like I never really knew that it was wrong, but obviously it is, and all that kind of stuff. And so you're kind of like living half in, half out. So basically got engaged to this guy, and I knew that I didn't want to be engaged to him. I was taking my ring off all the time, that I was at work. He lived down in the bottom of the South Island. I moved to the top of the middle of the South Island, Christchurch, to do studying in travel and tourism, and he became very controlling, and I basically was getting into the wrong things like drinking, drugs, got into a lot of smoking marijuana, all that kind of stuff. So yeah. And around this time, before I'd moved to Christchurch, I remember going to a party with a girl out in a small kind of wee town. We went in, I don't even know how we got there. We had been drinking, don't even know how we were drinking, but basically we were drinking something, and ended up getting raped. It wasn't a violent rape, but it was a rape altogether. I said no, and this guy basically forced himself on me. Not many people know this at all, so this is very difficult for me to talk about, but I just want you to know that, you know, there are people out there that don't talk about these things, and it doesn't mean that you aren't a good person. It's not your fault, and we can get through this. So moving on, basically I ended up moving up to Christchurch, and I fell into as I said, like lots of drugs, lots of alcohol, obviously was masking all this pain and things like that, because I felt like I couldn't tell anyone because no one would believe me. I was young and I was stupid and I was drinking, and it's my fault. You blame everything on yourself. So I fell into drugs and alcohol, sex, all kind of stuff, and ended up basically getting into a abusive relationship with a guy. So at the start, I mean, it was okay. Prior to this, so drugs and stuff like this, this wasn't just weed, this was like ecstasy, mushrooms, acid, BZP, and like all those kind of stuff. Basically got, like I was right into drum and bass, so basically every weekend would go to a drum and bass gig, take some drugs, come home, basically be awake all night, and then be coming off it. So yeah, so like I know a lot of people watching this will probably be like, what? No way. But yes, I was heavily addicted to drugs and alcohol, and I'll admit that now. So yeah, basically ended up getting into a relationship with someone at the time I thought was great, but actually was abusive, not only physically, not always physically, I'm not going to say that, but there were occasions where I got smacked around a bit. I had a big black eye, I had a friend actually who was there and ended up calling the police and everything, and I basically just lied about it, lied to my family, lied to my friends, pushed all my friends away because I felt like I didn't want to be that person that was getting bashed, and like how embarrassing. The police turned up the next day, basically put an order on him that he couldn't see me for 10 days. Then there was an earthquake in Christchurch and I was left at home. Literally, I have anxiety because of lots of things, really. I must say, I had an anxiety. And I just remember being on the grass like I had nobody. I felt like I had nobody. I'm sure there were people there that cared, but I felt like I had nobody because the police had told this guy that he couldn't be around me for my own safety because I had a massive black eye. But I'd lied to everyone and said that it didn't happen, and all sorts. So if you are in a relationship like that, please don't feel like you're alone. If you ever want to reach out and talk to someone, please message me, because I do know what it's like. And also it was a very emotional abusive relationship as well, and I know exactly what that is like. Okay, emotional abuse is no less than physical abuse. Physical abuse, it's horrible, you can see it, but emotional abuse can do a lot of damage as well. So I was in one of those relationships. I ended up one night, I was in this relationship. One night I went out and had a horrible day at work, went home, and I just wanted to chill out, and this guy was there with his friend and they were drinking and stuff like this, my partner at the time, and they were just being complete idiots to me. It's like drag me around and kick me and all sorts of things, and I just couldn't be bothered with it. So I ended up getting in my car and driving away, but I had actually drunken a lot of alcohol, and all I had in my car was a bottle of bourbon and a 2.25 litre of Coke. That's all I took with me, and I was drunk and I crashed into a power pole. I should have died. I basically ended up in hospital. All I remember is these people go, oh my gosh, she's dead, she's dead, she's dead. And I kind of came to and was like, oh my gosh, because I knew I'd been drinking. So I tried to walk off down the road and they were like, you need to come back, we've called the ambulance, you're bleeding. I was like bleeding from my head. They were like, where are you going? And I was like, I need to go home. And they're like, where have you come from? And I was like, home, which was the truth. But to them, they were making, like, none of it was making any sense at all. Anyway, the ambulance turned up, ended up getting a ambulance ride in. Always wanted to go on an ambulance. Can't remember. I was terrified. They had the neck brace on me. I couldn't move. That whole night, it was an absolutely horrible night in Christchurch where a lot of boy racers actually ended up dying from speeding away from cops and stuff, and it was just one of those really, really horrific nights in hospital where it was just people after people after people coming in screaming, he's dead, he's all this horrible stuff. I wasn't allowed to get up and go to the toilet. I had to use a bedpan. I just needed water because I'd been drinking. I wasn't allowed any water, had to have wait till the x-rays the next day. And because I didn't have anything with me, I didn't have my phone or anything like that. And the place I was living, their number was actually a private number. So I didn't know the number off by heart. So I couldn't ring them and say, I'm in hospital, can you come and get me? So basically I ended up the hospital found the number for me the next day, because they said you're going to be discharged soon, and I lived out in Lincoln, so it wasn't just in town, I couldn't just walk home. And so they rung, and my partner at the time, his friend, answered the phone, and I said, hey, I'm in the hospital, I need someone to come pick me up. And he just hung up on me, literally just hung up on me, didn't even care. So I didn't know what to do. I rang back. They took the phone off the hook, so I couldn't get hold of anybody. And so I was stuck in hospital with nowhere to go. Just crashed my car, didn't even know where I crashed, nothing like that. So basically I ended up ringing my old job. I found the phone book and I just rang an old place of work and was like, who is not working today? I need your help. And my old boss actually ended up coming and picking me up. How embarrassing. Coming and picking me up, taking me to another ex-employee / friend's house who drove me all the way back out to Lincoln, which is like 40 minutes away. And it was horrible. And then on the way out, he was like, where did you crash your car? And I was like, I don't know. I didn't know. I had no idea where I crashed my car. Luckily, I ended up getting a message from someone really randomly when I got back, saying, hey, just checking you're okay. So somehow I gave my number to this person, I guess, that had found me. And they were just checking I was okay. I had no broken bones. I had whiplash really bad, but I should have been dead. I basically said I'm bruised and I was very, very sore. And I had to ask these people, like, do you know where my car is? Like, I'm sorry, but I have to ask, do you know where my car is? And they told me where my car was, so ended up getting in the car and driving around. I didn't drive, obviously, but going around and just seeing the car was completely piled straight into a power pole. It was on a straight road. Don't know how it was done. Don't know. So if you're a drink driver, I urge you not to drink drive. You literally don't have to be going far. You don't have to be going around a corner. You don't have to be doing anything. Anything can happen, okay? So anyway, basically plowed straight into, head on into, there was the glass shattered. I had hit my head. That's why I had blood everywhere, stitches all on my head. And I was lucky to be alive. Like, if there was a passenger, they would be dead, for sure. And I was lucky. If it was any further that way, I literally would have died. So anyway, ended up staying with this guy. Don't know why. So got more into drugs, more into alcohol. Ended up getting these purple pills off somebody that I worked with. Was actually been a friend, because we still into like kind of drum and bass and stuff like that. But I basically become dependent on these pills, and I literally took them every weekend, every Friday night and every Saturday night. I could not go out without them, because I felt like I couldn't be me. I felt like I didn't know who I was anymore. I literally needed to take these pills to feel normal and to have a conversation with people. So I got dependent on these pills. I don't even know what they were. We just called them Purplos. We just called them purple pills, Purplos, and we used to just get them, and they were cheap and it worked, and I could go out and talk to people. And I literally don't know how long I took those for. It was a very long time. So yeah, I got into drugs, smoking. I've got tattoos. I obviously, being in a physical and an abusive relationship, takes your toll on you. So I was kind of like fancying other guys, ended up sleeping with somebody else, which is not like me at all. I'm very, very loyal. And as soon as I done that, I knew straight away, like, no matter what he had put me through, that is not who I am. So I ended up breaking up with him straight away, like within the week. I just couldn't, the guilt got to me. So basically ended up breaking up with him, and yeah, so basically carried on with drugs and drinking and going out every weekend and partying and going to gigs and smoking weed and doing all sorts of stuff. I've watched porn before. I have prayed to the universe. I've thought all of this stuff. And yeah, anyway, basically I ended up getting with another person. I kind of got my life back onto track. I become a flight attendant, so no more drugs, obviously. Got back into a relationship, and then after probably a few years of flying, I ended up smoking weed again. They never hardly ever did drug tests, so I just never, like, I just would only have like a couple of little puffs and it was okay. But basically I ended up finding out this guy that I was seeing now has, we ended up having a baby together, who is my eldest son, and basically ended up finding out he had been messaging other people behind my back, and it was just like, I felt like this is just a revolving door, you know. But I had a family with this guy, so I wanted to kind of sort it out, so we went to counseling, all this kind of stuff. Anyway, I got to a point in my life where I was just like, what the heck am I even doing here? I was having suicidal thoughts. I was having thoughts that I wasn't good enough. I was just like in a real depressed state. I felt like if I didn't have drugs, I just didn't want to, you know, like I just needed it for my sanity. I was a heavy smoker, smoked a lot. And kind of all sorts of things. And one night I went outside and I just, I remember actually watching like real weird YouTube things about the world ending and all this kind of stuff. And I just got to this point where I like went outside and just laid it all out to God and was just like, I can't do this anymore. I can't live like this anymore. What is even the point of me being here? All kinds of stuff, like just like getting to the point in life where it's just like, if you're real, I need you to show me, because right now, what's the point in living type thing, you know? Anyway, and so a couple of weeks later, I just started randomly having in my head like this one word. It was like revelations all the time. Like I just constantly would hear it, like revelations, 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 revelations. And I was doing the dishes, revelations. I'd go and put Malachi to bed. It was like revelations, like all the time. And basically I knew Revelations was in the Bible, and I knew it was the end book of the Bible, and I knew it's not the best book. It's basically about the return of Jesus and the end times and all that kind of stuff. So basically I knew, I'm like, okay, either the time is now, like Revelations is happening right now, I need to read Revelations. But I like didn't know where my Bible was. I'm pretty sure I threw it out years ago. And so anyway, I was kind of like, started watching like YouTube things on Revelations and stuff like that. Ended up talking to a lady who was from a church. Just random like things were falling into place. Like God had brought this lady to drop off some clothes. She went to like a church, and I kind of got chatting to her. A couple of weeks later, ended up receiving a Bible in the mail, with a Bible in the mail, because I didn't have a Bible and I needed to read Revelations. And here comes this Bible in the mail. So I kind of started reading that, but kind of I didn't get myself into a church or anything like that. I was kind of just like meddling at that stage, I guess. And then we ended up having to move because on the day before my partner was due to go back to work, his boss ended up ringing. He was like a contractor. His boss rang and said, we don't have any work for you, which was so not a good time. Not a good time when I'm not working. I'm literally looking after our child. My maternity leave had ended. We had just had a 5-week holiday break, so all of our spare money and savings had gone to paying rent up to then, and we had like a week extra, and then we needed that next week's income. And he decided not to tell us until the last kind of day, I guess, the night before. It was the night before he rung and said. And so we needed to find something urgently, and my partner at the time ended up finding a job down here in Timaru in Pleasant Point, and he ended up moving down here and moving in with my parents, and starting work down here. And I kind of like was starting to box things up, and he just wanted to see if he liked it down here and stuff like this. Timaru never ever wanted to move back to, but God had other plans, I guess. So I ended up moving in with my parents in Point for a wee bit, and then we found a house just around the corner. It was really good rent, and ended up moving in there. So then I got to know the neighbour a little bit. She was lovely. She used to bring me over scones. I went and introduced myself. She was a mum. She was home lots too, would invite me over for coffees, all sorts of things. And one day, this is like probably like a month later, if like probably later than that, I was just like, oh, what are you doing this weekend? And she was like, oh, I'm going to church. And she wasn't asking me to go to church. She wasn't telling me I go to church, I believe in God, anything like that. She was literally just saying, I'm going to church, and then she was going to carry on with her conversation. And as soon as she said church, something just dropped in my heart, and it was like, I am trying to talk to you, and you need to listen to me. You need to get to this church. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I feel like God has been talking to me this whole time, ever since I went out on that deck and prayed and lost it. And he has just been guiding us. Now he's placed us next to a lady who goes to church, who is absolutely lovely. And yeah, just, I felt like, yeah, it's really hard to explain, but like when you're in it and you look back, it's like, wow. So yeah, moved, and then I ended up kind of going back to church a little bit, kind of falling away. I found it really difficult as well because I had already been in the church, and a lot of the people that I went to church with in my previous years, like 10, 15 years earlier, I knew some of them went to this particular church, and I was like, I can't go there. I can't go there. They're going to judge me. These people are going to judge me for everything that I've done. And you know, like, I can't go. So it took me, and then I was like, no, I'm gonna do it. Walked in, absolute peace. Like, everybody is so lovely. No one is there to judge you. That's church, for goodness sake. Everyone is so welcome, and hey, nice to see you. You don't have to talk to people. I just sat down, pretty much listened, and kind of like left. And then did that a few times, kind of was in and out. At this stage, I'm still kind of smoking weed, go home from church, smoke weed, have a cigarette, all that kind of stuff, and was kind of in and out. But basically, I felt like he had led me back. Anyway, basically one day after a sermon had happened, I ended up, it just really hit me. Like, it was a service that just really hit my heart. And I ended up going home and finding on YouTube or something, like the prayer to say, like the sinner's prayer to give your life to God or something like that. Literally nobody was home, and I had this on the computer, and I just started reading it out because I was like, I just need God. I want God, like, in my life. So started reading it out. Nobody was home, okay? I had my eyes closed. I was crying because it was an emotional time. And I literally felt a warm, big hand on my shoulder. That way, obviously. Like a hand, and like this voice saying, I'm with you. I'm here. And this hand, just this warm, hot hand on my shoulder. Not hot to touch, but warm. Like, I knew, like it was God touching me, going, I see you, like I can feel you. I opened my eyes because I literally thought somebody had come home and was touching me, and it was not. It was literally, that was God touching my shoulder, like telling me, I'm here for you. And yeah, so then I've kind of had ups and downs in my relationship, still doing drugs, all sorts of things, kind of going to church, kind of not. And I remember actually asking, I was meant to go to Rarotonga, and I remember actually asking one day on the drive home from town, I was like, if I'm not meant to go to Rarotonga, we were going for a wedding, and me and my partner weren't in a great space at this point. This is nothing to do with church. This is past stuff continuing. Still messaging other people, all kind of stuff going on. And I was trying to be loyal and faithful and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I remember asking a sign, and I look up in the sky, and I'm not even joking. I still see it as a love heart. Love heart. There was clouds, and in the clouds was this love heart, and I knew it was a sign from God saying, don't go to Rarotonga. But we'd spent this money, so I was like, I just ignored it. ended up going to Rarotonga anyway. And because you're around people that don't believe, like I had all intentions, I'm going to go to church, I'm not going to smoke, I'm not going to drink. As soon as I had a drink, I wanted to smoke, and I ended up blacking out. And this has got nothing to do with like how much I drank or anything, but I think it was just the heat, and it was a mixture of things. But I ended up blacking out in the wedding, like in the wedding line. We were all up to get food, and I blacked out. I literally passed out, and I woke up with people throwing water on me. They thought they were going to have to get the ambulance and all sorts of things. And it's not until I came back, it was like I felt like that was a warning from God. Like, I gave you a sign, told you not to go. Like, imagine if you didn't wake up from that. Imagine if you went to Rarotonga and you passed out and you died. Like, I felt like that was kind of the story. He was the lesson. I don't know what it was, but I just felt like, yeah. So anyway, blacked out. And yeah, and then I've just been like, recently I've kind of just had lots of kind of stuff going on, and I just felt like I needed God to reveal some stuff to me. So I prayed, and God revealed some not so nice truths about some situations that I was going through. My phone's got 5% battery. He's telling me to wrap this up. So basically, prayed, and he kind of came through and kind of has been showing me that not everybody is, some people don't change type thing. Anyway, long story short, as I said, about 3 weeks ago, I ended up getting baptized, and before I got baptized, probably a week before, God ended up like chopping things out of my life that, pruning me, I guess, pruning these branches that I don't need off me. It's probably another story, but basically, I felt like when I fully surrendered everything to him and was like, I need you, I need your strength, I need everything. I literally stopped smoking weed. I have stopped smoking. My anxiety has gone away. Everything that I've gone through, I literally have gone from, like, I'm now a single mom, all that kind of stuff. Like, I should be really depressed with what has happened recently and in my past, and like, I feel the most peace inside that I have ever felt. Like, I feel so peaceful, and it's so hard to explain. Like, yes, I'm a little bit upset about this and that, but I actually feel at peace by it. Like, God has taken everything away. I have not felt like a cigarette. I have not felt like weed. I have not felt like having sex, even. Like, anything. Like, I literally feel this way. And when you become to know Jesus and actually like love him and see that he just wants the best for you in your life, you actually don't desire any of these worldly things anymore. And I feel like this whole that we're always trying to fill, whether it be with drugs, with sex, with smoking, with getting tattoos, with anything, like anything in life that we kind of go through, and we're like clothes, buying things, money, you know, people always buying houses and clothes and cars and food.